Home alone on a dark and stormy night, I was determined to enjoy some solitude while my family attended a late-night event. The wind howled outside, and rain beat against the windows like icy fingers tapping on the glass. Despite the ominous weather, I felt secure in the familiarity of my home. As the night progressed, the storm intensified, and the house creaked and groaned with each gust of wind. I sought comfort in the glow of the TV, trying to distract myself from the unsettling sounds. But as I settled on the couch, a peculiar feeling washed over me, the sensation of being watched. My rational mind brushed it off as mere paranoia, attributing the sensation to the storm's eerie ambiance. Yet the feeling persisted, growing stronger with every passing moment. I tried to shake it off, reminding myself that I was alone in the house. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the hall, followed by the distinct sound of footsteps. My heart skipped a beat and adrenaline surged through my veins. I muted the TV, straining to hear any other sounds that might confirm my suspicions. The footsteps grew closer and panic consumed me. I thought of calling the police, but the phone was in the kitchen, and the footsteps were getting louder with each passing second. Summoning my courage, I tiptoed to the kitchen, trying to make as little noise as possible. My mind raced, trying to come up with a rational explanation for the intruder's presence. Maybe it was just an animal or the storm playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. I reached the kitchen, and to my dismay, the phone line had been cut. Panic surged through me as I realized the extent of my vulnerability. With no way to call for help, I had no choice but to face the intruder on my own. I tiptoed back to the living room, my heart pounding in my ears. The footsteps were now unmistakably coming from the second floor. I had no choice but to confront the intruder, hoping to scare them off before any harm could be done. I mustered my courage and crept up the stairs, my breaths shallow and quick. Each step seemed to echo through the empty house, revealing my presence to the intruder. I wished I had taken my phone with me, but there was no turning back now. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard a faint whisper, chilling and insidious. My blood ran cold and I held my breath, straining to hear any other sounds. The wind outside seemed to echo the whispered words, and I could no longer deny that something sinister was unfolding. I checked every room, my hands trembling as I pushed open each door. But every room was empty, and the footsteps continued to taunt me, leading me in circles. In desperation, I entered my parents' room, and that's when I saw it, the figure of a shadowy figure, barely visible in the dim light of the moon. Fear clutched at my throat and I couldn't move, frozen in terror. The figure turned, and its eyes met mine. They glowed with an unnatural light, devoid of any humanity. My heart pounded in my chest, and a scream caught in my throat. With an unsettling smile, the figure vanished into thin air. I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Was it a trick of the light, or had I truly encountered a malevolent entity? As I stood in shock, the footsteps faded, replaced by an eerie silence. The storm outside had subsided, leaving an unsettling stillness in its wake. My mind raced, trying to come to terms with what I had witnessed. Suddenly, a chilling gust of wind blew through the room, causing the windows to rattle. The air seemed charged with an otherworldly energy, and a voice, an echo of the whispered words, seemed to fill the room. "You're not alone," it whispered, the words sending shivers down my spine. In that moment, I knew I had to escape. I couldn't stay in the house any longer. The malevolent entity had made its presence known, and I couldn't risk what might happen next. I rushed downstairs, my heart pounding in my chest. The front door was my only chance at escape. I flung it open, ready to run into the night. But as I stepped outside, a chilling sight greeted me. The figure of the malevolent entity stood on the porch, its eyes glowing with an unholy light. I froze, unable to move as it stepped towards me. Then, with a sinister grin, the entity vanished into thin air, leaving me standing alone on the porch. The night was still, and the storm had passed, leaving no trace of the malevolent presence that had haunted me. I couldn't explain what had happened that night, but I knew one thing for certain. I would never forget the terror of being home alone, faced with an unseen intruder whose malevolence would forever haunt my nightmares. Home alone on a stormy night, I relished the solitude, thinking I could catch up on some reading. The rain pounded on the roof, creating a comforting ambiance. My parents had gone to visit relatives, leaving me with our old Victorian house. As I nestled into the couch, my eyes were drawn to the antique mirror on the wall across from me. The rain splattered against the glass, distorting my reflection. I shivered, feeling a sense of unease in the room, but dismissed it as a product of my overactive imagination. Trying to distract myself, I opened my book and immersed myself in its world. But as I read, I thought I heard faint whispers, like voices carried on the wind. I paused, listening carefully, but the whispers vanished as quickly as they came. Chalking it up to the storm outside, I returned to my book. However, the whispers returned, growing louder this time. My heart quickened as I strained to make out the words, but they remained elusive, as if spoken in a language unknown to me. Feeling increasingly unsettled, I decided to ignore the whispers and focus on my book. Yet they persisted, now accompanied by soft, eerie laughter. Fear gnawed at me, but I tried to rationalize the sounds, attributing them to the old house's creaks and groans. To distract myself further, I turned on the TV, hoping the noise would drown out the haunting whispers. But even the sound of the TV couldn't mask the strange voices that seemed to fill the room. Then the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. I fumbled for my phone to call my parents, but the battery was dead. Feeling a growing sense of dread, I decided to leave the house and seek refuge with my neighbors until my parents returned. But as I reached for the doorknob, I noticed the mirror's reflection. A shadowy figure stood behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. My breathing quickened, and a feeling of being watched intensified. I had to leave, to escape the haunting whispers and the unexplained presence in my home. As I rushed to the front door, the whispers grew louder, their words incomprehensible. The house seemed to groan, as if trying to keep me trapped inside. But I couldn't stay any longer. I needed to escape. With trembling hands, I unlocked the door and stepped outside into the pouring rain. The storm raged on, but the moment my foot touched the wet ground, the whispers stopped, and the haunting presence vanished. Relieved, I ran to my neighbor's house, seeking safety and comfort. But as I approached, I noticed their lights were off, and the house appeared deserted. Confused, I rang the doorbell, but there was no response. A chill ran down my spine, and I realized that something was terribly wrong. My neighbors were always home, especially during a storm. The feeling of unease returned, and I knew I had to find somewhere else to go. As I turned away from the darkened house, I noticed a faint light in the distance. Hopeful, I followed it, praying that it would lead me to safety. The light guided me through the rain until I reached an old cemetery. Fear gripped me, but the light seemed to beckon me closer, revealing a small, weathered mausoleum. The whispers returned, urging me to enter, promising safety within its stone walls. Reluctantly, I pushed open the heavy door, and the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a sinister melody. Inside, the air was stale, and the flickering candles cast eerie shadows on the walls. As I stepped further into the mausoleum, the whispers seemed to take form. A faceless apparition appeared before me, its eyes glowing with an ethereal light. I couldn't move, paralyzed by both fear and fascination. The apparition spoke, its voice a haunting echo. "You have been chosen, child. The whispers have led you here to fulfill an ancient pact." Confusion and terror warred within me. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew I couldn't escape the entity's grasp. "You possess a gift, the ability to hear the voices of the departed," the apparition continued. "With this gift, you must help them find peace." Tears welled in my eyes as I tried to comprehend the weight of the apparition's words. I had always felt a connection to the unknown, but now it seemed like a curse. The apparition's eyes bore into mine, and I felt a surge of power and responsibility. The haunting whispers that had tormented me were not malevolent. They were the cries of lost souls, seeking solace in their eternal unrest. With a sense of purpose, I nodded to the apparition, accepting my role as a conduit between the living and the dead. From that night on, I embraced my gift, helping the departed find peace by listening to their stories and resolving their unfinished business. The haunting whispers became my guides, leading me to the souls that needed my help. And in the process, I learned that fear and darkness could be transformed into understanding and compassion. The old Victorian house that had once scared me became a sanctuary of healing, and the whispers that had filled it with terror were now a connection to a world beyond our understanding. Home alone on a stormy winter night, I found myself lost in the comfort of my cozy living room. My parents were out for a late dinner, and I relished the solitude. The crackling fireplace and the sound of rain tapping against the windows provided a soothing backdrop. As the night deepened, I decided to retire to my bedroom, seeking the warmth of my blankets. But as I stepped into the hallway, an inexplicable chill washed over me. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to the cold draft from an open window. As I lay in bed, the wind outside howled, and the house groaned with the weight of the storm. But beneath the soothing sound of the rain, I detected something else, a faint, eerie humming. I strained my ears to listen, but the source of the sound eluded me. Curiosity piqued. I got out of bed and followed the humming down the hallway. It grew louder as I approached the living room. My heart pounded in my chest, and a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The living room was empty, the fireplace still crackling with warmth. But the humming persisted, now accompanied by the sound of footsteps, soft and deliberate. My senses were on high alert as I searched the room for the source of the haunting sounds. And then I saw it, an old music box sitting on the coffee table, its lid slightly ajar. I had never seen it before, and it seemed out of place amidst our modern decor. The eerie humming emanated from the music box, its delicate melody echoing through the room. I hesitated, but something compelled me to open the music box. As I did, the melody swelled, filling the room with a haunting tune. My heart raced as I watched the tiny ballerina inside spin in circles. But then the melody changed, its notes growing discordant and unsettling. The ballerina stopped moving, freezing mid-spin. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, and I quickly closed the music box, hoping to silence the haunting sounds. But the humming continued, now louder and more insistent. My fear intensified, and I turned to leave the living room, only to find the front door wide open. Panic set in as I knew I had closed and locked the door earlier. My mind raced with possibilities. Had someone broken into the house during the storm? The thought terrified me, and I considered calling the police. But with my phone in the living room, I had no way to contact anyone for help. With a deep breath, I decided to investigate further. Maybe the wind had blown the door open, I reasoned. But as I approached the door, the humming grew louder, as if urging me to leave. I stepped outside, and a gust of cold wind greeted me. The storm raged on, rain soaking my clothes within seconds. I called out, but my voice was drowned out by the fury of the wind. Feeling defeated, I closed the door and returned to the living room. The music box now seemed more sinister than ever, and the humming pierced through me like a knife. And then I saw it. The ballerina inside the music box was moving again, but this time her dance was frantic and unnatural. Her porcelain features contorted into an expression of anguish, and her movements seemed desperate, as if she were trying to break free from the confines of the box. Terror consumed me, and I slammed the music box shut, hoping to silence the haunting melody and the tortured ballerina. But the humming persisted, now louder and more menacing. I needed to get out of the house, to escape the haunting presence that had invaded my home. With trembling hands, I rushed to the kitchen, hoping to find something to defend myself. But as I opened a drawer, a chilling sight greeted me. The kitchen knives were arranged in a circle, their blades pointed towards the center, as if beckoning me to join them. Fear overwhelmed me, and I knew I had to leave immediately. Without a second thought, I fled the house, leaving everything behind. As I stood outside, the storm seemed to quiet, as if the haunting presence within my home had been appeased. I knew I could never return, that the house was no longer safe. As I walked down the street, I felt a presence beside me, the ballerina from the music box. Her porcelain features were frozen in an eternal dance of torment, and her eyes bore into my soul. "You shouldn't have opened the box," she whispered, her voice a haunting echo. Terror consumed me, and I ran faster, desperate to escape the haunting presence that seemed to follow me. But no matter how far I ran, I couldn't escape the chilling melody of the music box and the uninvited guest that had haunted my home. To this day, I can still hear the eerie humming, a constant reminder of the night I was home alone and encountered a malevolent force that changed my life forever. The music box may be gone, but its haunting melody will forever echo in the depths of my soul.